Everyone's favorite reject simulator has finally gotten a new update, and it very well could be the start of Fatshark's path to redemption. Path to Redemption is the first update for Darktide this year of 2024 and features a comprehensive rework of the Penance or achievement system, adds in a large amount of new earnable cosmetics including skins, emotes, banners, and more, some balance changes, a new enemy, and a new map condition, alongside a lot of quality of life changes. I'll be going over some of the most notable things that I saw, namely the Penance Rework, balancing, overall game performance, and added content. I also add the link to the full patches in the description below if you want to check it out yourselves. I'll also be using YouTube chapters for this video, so if there's anything of particular interest that you're looking for, be sure to check that out. The Penance Rework is honestly pretty nice, though when you first boot up the game, you're going to be spammed with a lot of notifications. All these new penances and any old ones that you've done have earned you points towards a progression track that you can see at the new NPC vendor, Sister Hestia. I think it's important to say that this is not a battle pass. This is a progression track. This is a progression track that is not monetized, and it's not on any kind of time limit. So to help people understand this a bit better, all battle passes are progression tracks, but not all progression tracks are battle passes. In this new progression track, you'll find lots of new types of cosmetics ranging from emotes, titles, and more. Fatsharkers also say that they plan to continue to add more content and tiers to the track as time goes on, and that they don't have any plans to monetize it. Overall, I think it's a solid addition to the game, though I do have some reservation about some of the penances. I imagine that there's going to be a lot of players in public games that are going to be trying very hard to complete them at the cost of the game itself, but honestly, that's probably just going to be a problem no matter what if you play in public games. Balance-wise, there actually weren't a whole lot of changes. There are some slight nerfs to the Ogryn's tanking nodes with some buffs to their gunner nodes. Veterans mostly got net buffs to their range tree, though Scavenger and the Survivalist aura got a 5-second cooldown added to it. Personally, I'm not too broken up about the nerf to the Survivalist aura. I just wish that the other auras were a bit better, either getting some buffs or some reworks, as even after the nerf, Survivalist is still by far the best aura that you can run on Veteran. The Psykers got some sizable nerfs to Disrupt Destiny, with the overall stacks being lowered and the time it takes for stacks to decay being reduced from 15 to 4 seconds. However, now these stacks will only decay one at a time instead of all at once, so I think it's honestly a decent trade-off, as avoiding losing all of your stacks means that you'll be able to keep up a pretty sizable DPS increase throughout the mission. Elsewhere, Psykers pretty much got nothing but net buffs, with a lowered cooldown on Scryer's Gaze, and Empowered Psionics having stronger effects on both Assail and Smite, plus a slight buff to one of the Psyker auras. So overall, Psykers are doing pretty well this patch. Zealots also got some minor buffs alongside a nerf to Inexorable Judgment. The Zealot's Stun Grenade and Infectious Zeal, however, got buffs, though the Infectious Zeal buff is only a buff to the maximum crit chance that Zealots can give to their teammates, raising it from a max of 5% to 10%. Aside from these balancing changes, the only major ones that I saw were changes to enemies, most notably the enemy bulwarks, otherwise known as shield Ogryns. The shields on the bulwarks got nerfed so that they no longer protect a much larger radius than what their shield actually covers. So now you can actually shoot them on the sides and flank them better. Also, the overall amount of bulwarks that can spawn as roamers around the map and the maximum amount of them that can spawn in the group has been lowered. It's not all nerfs to enemies, however. Some enemies have more resistance to being staggered, specifically to prevent chain CCing them. These enemies include Crushers, Bulwarks, Plague Ogryns, and Chaos Spawns. Another thing that I saw that should help player frustration is that Rager combo attacks are now dodgeable, and they've reduced the stun from these attacks. As we all know, Ragers are some of the worst enemies to engage in melee, and these changes should give players some breathing room when fighting them. Another thing that the devs have added is that they remove player stuns from normal enemy ranged hits and toughness breaking. So you should see some less slowdown on your character overall, though the grace period you have when your toughness breaks has been reduced, and from the wording it seems that the grace period is even less on higher difficulties, so having your toughness broken should be more dangerous, especially against ranged enemies. All in all, it's some okay balance changes. Personally, I'm not too sure about the veteran range buffs, as I noticed I didn't seem to be doing too well on Auric Maelstrom, but that might be because I was sitting at 20 frames per fight. Speaking of performance, I think that the overall performance is worse. Granted, I've only played Auric Maelstrom missions since the patch drop, but my frames were absolutely abysmal. I went anywhere from 40 frames to 20 to 15, and my PC just almost felt like a slideshow at times. I'm not sure if the overall game performance dropped, or if it's just due to the number of enemies spawning more than before on Auric Maelstrom, but regardless, my game's performance definitely took a hit this patch, and it was not an enjoyable experience. The other potential source of my performance frustration might actually be the newest enemy introduced, the Dreg Tox Bomber. I absolutely hate this guy, and I mean it as in a I love to purge this guy specifically kind of way because I hate them that much. The Dreg Tox Bomber is honestly one of the most dangerous enemies that can spawn. Their Tox Bombs deny an even greater area than the regular bomber, and the gas does a sizable amount of damage, chunking both your toughness and health, and also giving you corruption. The scariest thing about them though is that they are a buffing kind of character to their allies. The gas from their bombs function the same as the gas used by the Karnak twins. Enemies in the gas are empowered, becoming stronger and faster, and you can easily tell because their eyes start to glow a kind of ghoulish green. And also the super fast mutants is a pretty good clue. Overall, I consider to be high priority targets. They continue to make themselves a huge problem, and they are strictly my number one priority every single time that they spawn. There's also a new condition as well called pox gas. It makes it so that there's a lot of pox gas spread throughout the map, both damaging players and empowering enemies. These maps also feature additional medical stems to help with the gas, as the pox gas really likes to build up corruption, even if you have corruption resistance curios. I unfortunately didn't get a chance to play on this modifier yet, as I didn't see any of the conditions in the Maelstrom missions I was doing, so I can't really share any personal experiences about it. Overall, I think Path to Redemption is a solid patch. There are lots of good things added, however, it took a very long time for this patch to come out. It remains to be seen whether or not Fatshark can keep up this momentum. I really hope this actually is their Path to Redemption, as they talked about in the future content coming this year is going to include a crafting rework, more new enemies, bosses, and more, and I really want to see more life breathed into Darktide, as the core of the game is just very good. They just need to go ahead and fix a lot of the issues that have been plaguing the game, especially crafting and content. As always with any Darktide updates, I'll be sure to cover it, and if you want to see more content or stay up to date on Darktide updates, be sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching y'all, and happy purging.